You walk into a room where you find a director, an author, and an animator sitting together, each a master of their craft. You make them an offer: unlimited budget, unlimited resources, no deadlines, no ticking clock. Only the pure, unshackled pursuit of their artistic vision. Then you wait. 1 year later, the author returns, cradling a book unlike any you've ever seen. Each page is adorned with the most articulate illustrations crafted by the finest background artist money could hire. Every composition, every pixel perfected. It was finally good enough. No more effort could have improved it. And then, 5 years later, the director arrives, bearing a film that dwarfs all before it. Every legendary actor gracing the screen. CGI so lifelike it makes your own reflection feel inferior. The action sequences, real planes, real explosions. Hell, seeing the kind of budget this thing was working for, it could just rent the entirety of Canada as a set for it cares. It was finally big enough. There was nothing left to be added. But then 10 years pass on, and you still didn't hear a word from the animator. He was just still there for some reason. And then, as time passed and passed on, you came to an important realization. The project would never be good enough. For when it came to animation, there was always something that could have been improved upon. And this was not as simple as saying that the animator was a perfectionist. It was just more than that. If given unlimited time, an animator would just keep refining their work indefinitely. There would be always a frame to add, an art to be improved, a background character to be given life, the likes of which only found in Mappa's overworked slaves, animators. For animation is a form of art without a ceiling. In fact, if I may be so bold, the only form of art without a ceiling. It's not a simple book that you could just spend your entire time perfecting a single page until there was no more work to be done. It wasn't a simple live action project that, given enough time, would land on the perfect take, the perfect set, or the perfect line delivery. It was, and I mean this truly in the literal most sense of the word, limitless. As said by the undying word by the ever so late Leonardo da Vinci, art is never finished, only abandoned. Okay, what's up, mama? Let's try and bring this back to the funny demon show that says fuck. Around these days, everyone tend to have different interpretations of how to view HAZBIN HOTEL, or to a much lesser extent, Helluva boss. But if we're speaking purely on the facts in here, HAZBIN HOTEL is an undeniable accomplishment in animation history. A story of success. A proof that given enough time and effort, anyone can bring their visions into life. HAZBIN HOTEL proved that you don't need to work for a big corporation in order to get your chance. You just needed to create enough noise in order to be noticed. It was the YouTube pilot to actually shoot its shot and actually hit its mark. And it all started from just a single over-ambitious pilot that was 2 years in the making. And after being met with all the good and all the bad reception that it could ever want, it was finally noticed. It was finally picked up. It was finally at the finish line. No longer would it be just a small-time indie project on YouTube. Now, it would become something that would be out of place next to Invincible and insert something else that Amazon owns here. It was now there with all the funds that it could ever want to achieve its dream. So, with all that being said, why the hell does the funded one suddenly look worse than the indie pilot? Deadlines. The one word that sends terror down the throats of any animator. The word that was used to whip the entirety of Mappa's slaves. And as any animator would tell you, it's the most important deciding factor of how good the final project would come out. Give Dragon Ball Super 6 months and it'll look like complete dog water most of the time. Then go and give Dragon Ball Daima 3 years and it'll look like an animator's wet dream. if I may go out of script for a while. Yeah, it's so annoying to go on and on and on and on how about useless Super Saiyan 3 was within my last video. Just for like, I don't know, Daima to come out and actually do something within the next week. Ugh. Where was I? Right. Deadlines, by their nature, are the yin and yang of art. On the one hand, the longest something stays in the oven, the better it gets. But on the other hand, time costs money, and no one has an infinite amount of that. So you end up with having to balance these two together, and that balancing itself, sadly, is in the hands of the ones that actually care about the work of the art and production. Or the animation industry is designed in such a way that puts zero power in the hands of the ones who are actually creating that arc they're working on. Mainly because animation is expensive. Like, really, really expensive. Every frame of animation you see on screen costs a lot of money to make. Take Jalopocalypse episode Erased for an example. It is as simple as they come when it comes to production. Barely any actual animation to be seen, and just carried out by what little it has in it. Take a guess on how much that thing cost. Come on, I'll wait. Hey, this isn't a bit at all. I need that comment for the almighty algorithm. Well, you know, with the other two things, of course. Guess? Good? Okay, this thing costed $250,000.
Are you shitting me?
No, I don't think so.
Just a sweet side note here. That Erased slaps. Go watch it. So, if this thing that barely has any animation costs this much, then I think you can start to imagine how much a fully animated show would cost. And since you definitely don't have that kind of money, you'll obviously go to someone that does. He'll give you that money in exchange for, I don't know, all the rights for the current and the future of your idea. What does that mean? It means that in the awful case in which the investor decides that he does not want to fund your show anymore and subsequently eventually cancels it, he still remains the current owner of your own work, meaning that it is literally lost forever. He won't use it because he just doesn't wanna, and you can't use it because it is not yours anymore. Even if he's never, ever gonna touch it again. And this sad, grim reality is the case of the vast majority of the animation industry these days. It gets outright disgusting when it comes to particularly horrid companies such as Nickelodeon. Take Making Fiends for an example. You had this little story that you've had for as long as you can remember. You had a lot of fun making some free comics for everyone to read. And then, you know what? A lot of people seem to like what you have going on. So now, you really want to bring your idea to life. But you can't realistically pay for that. Your silly little comics, as fun as they might be to read and to write, can't actually pay for that sort of thing. So, you look at someone who's willing to fund your show, and hey, if it fails, you could just go back to drawing your silly little comics again, right? Right? Right!
Trogler, I can't allow them to make an independent Quimbly game. It's my IP to sit on and do nothing with.
You come to a company and tell them your idea of this fun TV show, Making Fiends, about this little girl that can make monsters to try and scare away the girl who's trying to befriend her. The company hears you out, and you know what? They actually agree. You trade in your life work for the promise that it'll be funded and brought to life. But then, it happens. The thing that always happens. The investors look at the charts and realize that they could just squeeze in more money if they broke that promise. And so, the sabotaging begins. Bad airing times, awful work environment, downright abysmal treatment of your own show that they themselves agreed to fund. And so, the inevitable happens. Your show gets cancelled. It's not gonna be airing anymore. But you know what? Despite everything, you're still optimistic. You'll try again. You say, you'll find someone else. You say, it's all gonna be fine. You say, hell, if all fails, you could just return to creating your fun comics, you know? The ones that started all this, the one that you never even cared what profit from. It is your own show after all. And if they don't want it, you'll just be going on your way and no, it is not yours anymore. It doesn't matter if they sabotaged it or that they will never, ever, ever do anything with it. you are not allowed to get it back. You don't need the competition after all, so it's better to rip it out of your hands forever than to take the risk of having it actually succeed under someone else's management. And do you want to know what's the most disgusting thing is? If you ever try to do anything, and I do mean anything with your own work of art, even if it was as small as drawing your free fun comics again, you'll get sued to oblivion and beyond for, and I repeat, they won't use it and they will not give it back to you. And just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, you look around and notice something that makes your stomach turn. You're not the only one. My life as a teenage robot, Invader Zim, Harvey Beaks, it was everywhere. Heck, your show didn't even have to be unprofitable for it to get the cancelled and no one got to use it anymore treatment. Harvey Beaks was as successful as they come, but it was because of the creator's own actions that it got cancelled. And what were these heinous actions that will get the company to shut down your show, you might ask? Was it something about crime, abuse, or this Nickelodeon we're talking about, I don't know, a sex offender? No, my friend. In Nickelodeon's book, these always get to carry on normally. Hell, look at the outlet, it's still going strong to this day. I am talking about a more heinous crime. The crime of speaking out against Nick's own greedy and scummy management. Such was the case with Harvey Beaks' creator, C.H. Greenbelt. C.H. Greenblatt? I don't know, I've definitely butchered this name. I don't know, here it's on screen. The creator spoke out against their unfair management, and the second he did that, his show was a work of the past. Hell, they didn't even have the decency to wait until the season was over to cancel it Netflix style. No, they just felt the need to make the creator's life hell and make an example out of him. And that was also the case for every animator that was working on that show for that matter. They made their life that much harder until they quit by themselves, just because he dared to speak out against them. But the Loud House? Nah, sex offenders are nothing special to Nick. His show get to continue on like nothing ever happened. And this type of thing is everywhere in the animation industry. The Legend of Korra outright disgusting work environment to sabotage the show because Nick lost all faith in it. Just to realize that it's actually making money and return to renew it past season 1 just to do the same thing all over again in later seasons. Mega's creator literally got his show sold out for a bloody tax deduct. So it's now even illegal to think about ever using it again. CN was like, we like the gays, so here Rebecca Sugar, go make your gay show. But then, the second it got too gay, it got cancelled. Same thing with the Outhouse, by the way. Hell, sometimes the show is successful, but the company just doesn't want to wait until the show is done video game company style, just because they get scared that the hype might die down. One Punch Man was a money-making machine, but the studio obviously needed more time to get everything in order. So what does the company do? Change studios just to get the show made faster, result in outright criminally worst animation. What's that studio it? You need more time for Attack on Titan? Nah, let's go to MAPPA. Yes, the quality of the animation will hit Nanatsu no Taizai level of drop, but at least we'll get the money in our hands faster this way. Even if the show gets cancelled, even if it was successful, even if the quality was top-notch, the bloody, greedy, and uncaring company will ensure that the process of making the damn thing as grueling, as underpaying, and literally as inhumane as work condition could possibly get. Such was the case with shows like Jujutsu Kaisen or movies like Spider-Verse. So maybe now you can see why an increasing number of proud animators have decided to abandon that norm and try their hands on independently creating their shows by funding coming from their fans and community members alone. Lackadaisy, The Art of Murder, I Don't Want to Be a Magical Girl, the entirety of Glitch Production, and of course, the subject of this video, HAZBIN Hotel, which, in this case, these just cannot be any clearer for an example to the immense difference between traditional and indie animation, especially when you come to compare it with Vivziepop's other massively successful indie projects set in hell of a boss.
Oh God, it was one time! And if I hadn't slept with that privileged asshole, none of us would have access to the living world.
You what?
The HAZBIN Hotel pilot, the actual show, and Hell of a Boss. Let's start comparing these three one by one, shall we? When the HAZBIN Hotel pilot finally got released, There was about one word that I could use to describe its animation style. Balls to the bloody wall insane. Colors flashing at the screen like it was nobody's business. Movements and life in these characters that only a 2-year animation process can produce. And by far, and I'm not exaggerating here, the absolute best character design that I have seen in anything ever. Literally, when the only complaint that I could ever throw around this show's art style is that it's too detailed or it's too complicated or that it's too hard to draw, you just know that you stumbled upon something special. Nothing was like this before it. And I do mean that I've never seen anything like this. But then, the show actually got picked up. And then, it happens. Deadlines. Okay, listen here. I'm not an idiot. I understand why deadlines exist. Hell, that whole pretentious opening I had at the beginning of the video was all about that. Money does not grow on trees. And, you do want your project to come out at least someday within this next decade, But it's just hard not to look at what we finally got with this show and not be disappointed at what it could have had. Just imagine, Amazon's picking up of the show introduced 2 factors to the equation that weren't there before. A time limit and a limited budget that you could not go over. So, that meant that one thing just had to happen before we can move on. The character designs and the animation in general had to be streamlined. The once smooth and overly animated animation style now looked just normal and sometimes stiff. Charlie's design that was once the only soft and round in the show, given her distinct difference between anyone else's sharper edges, just got streamlined to look like everybody else's. Alistair especially lost a lot of personality. What with them having to hit him with the simplification hammer? Hell, poor Angel took it the worst out of all of them. The once vibrant and detailed Angel Dust now just looks flat. Like, really noticeably flat. Look at this. What have they done to my boy? And again, don't get me wrong. I know that these things are some unreasonable to design, but like, when HAZBIN Hotel was able to do it with limited budget just as an indie animator funded by their fans, and then it got picked up by a company that has millions and millions of dollars that just wouldn't spare to just match the animation style, it just gets someone disappointed, And again, I'm not an idiot. I know that financially speaking, that was probably the right thing to do in this situation. These designs would have been, and maybe still are, a nightmare to draw. Hell, sometimes they are impossible to draw if Angel Dust's arm disappearing half of the time is any indication. HAZBIN Hotel's art style was just too complicated. When I'm just thinking and I see the word over designs, this show is the first thing that comes to mind. It was too hard, too complicated, and way too time consuming. But it makes you wonder, what would have happened if they had as much time as they actually needed? What would a show like that even looks like? Oh, so that's what it looks like. Hell of a Bloody Boss is the best looking indie animation ever made. And it's not even close. Every single frame is orgasming with personality. Every single side character that's only appeared for one frame is given so much care and detail that it makes you want to learn their stories. Every single second of animation in this show is brimming with life. Scenes that normally would have just been the first thing to cut off when you're trying to save up time or money are given as much love and care as any other scene. Take a look at this scene for an example. It's just Blitzo breaking down a door. This could have been a 2-frame clip and no one would have batted an eye. But no, it had to be perfect. Everything about this show's animation screams perfect. Hell, sometimes the animators just feel like they're showing off. First-person shots, smooth chains animation, bombastic designs for every single background character. By every metric, Helluva Boss's animation makes HAZBIN Hotel's new animation looks like a $5 Rule 34 commission. Nothing in the new HAZBIN Hotel animation compares to any tiny detail of Helluva Boss's. No background in HAZBIN Hotel even compares to what backgrounds Helluva Boss is working with. No action scenes even come close to the animator's wet dream that Helluva Boss have. Hell! Nothing, not a single thing in HAZBIN Hotel compared to what a magnificent design Vivziepop is. Not a single thing. And you wanna know why? It's because there isn't anyone in the Helluva Boss team that's interested in anything but making art. No one looking at the charts, no one trying to maximize profit, and no one to say no for when the show tries to get crazy. You wanna delay like episode 6 for an anime-style Sakuga fight scene that puts Naruto to shame? Yeah, go for it, who cares? You wanna have a million rotation shots for every single episode that'll make every animator watching cream their pants with how hard they are to do? And I do mean every single one of these bloody things. This show shits out rotation shots like they aren't the most headache-inducing to animate. You wanna have a fucking character design that changes color every scene, actually having a constantly moving volcano lab of a waist, and with a hair that will just keep animating once every second. What the fuck? My point is, I can never imagine any of these designs under the budget or a time limit. Nothing as complicated as Vivziepop or Asmodeus can be made with deadlines in mind. Or even if they would need their entire creative, crazy stuff to be flattened out and streamlined. Because that's just how the industry is. And it just really makes you think how an indie animation that isn't $1 million corporation could just make out such creative and such amazing designs and animation like this, and then the second the other show gets picked up, the animation style just gets flatlined to oblivion and beyond. Just because animation just in general doesn't get as much budget as anything else. Look at Invincible for a while. That thing made the money to make all money. And then season 2 just happened and the animation didn't improve. In fact, it got worse in some cases. Season 3 happened and same thing. They're not willing at all to increase the budget to make it look better just because they're going with the Nintendo Pokemon role. Why do more when you're probably just gonna get the same amount of profit anyway? Because again, it's all about maximizing profit. And why spend any more effort if profits aren't gonna increase with that effort? Because artistic integrity isn't anything in the equation here. I mean, like, yeah. What do I even say at this point? This is so depressing, it makes me think that even if they were given that, they were just screwed over. Hell, remember last year's Uzumaki? It was promised unlimited time and money to bring Junji Ito's magnum opus to life. And you know what? It all went well for a while until the higher-ups at Adult Swim noticed how much time and money being used on this silly black and white Japanese cartoon. So they just decided to do the same thing that always happens in the industry. Go and screw over every animator working there and go on a firing spree to try and save as much money as possible, which is trying to demolish the entire project rather than risk the project actually coming out. I don't even know what to say at this point anymore. Working under a company as an animator these days is just unstable, low paying, and above all else, forces you to spend more time talking to shareholders rather than actually creating art. And at the end of the day, I just sadly do not see any solutions to this problem. Unionize. The solution is to unionize. If actors can do it, so can you, baby. Well, who cares? Which force and torches galore. Let's go. We could just eat the with a sandwich in the and shove it in there. Unionize!